This month's question has been put forward by Madeline, and she emailed us to say, I believe in the cleaner, greener Manchester, but has Openshaw been forgotten? For more than a year, residents of Openshaw Village have put up with the dust and noise during the demolition of Ciba. Now work seems to have ground to a halt, as there's been no activity on site for 2 weeks. The first phase of Dreyfus Village starts 2010. Does that mean that the mountains of crushed rubble on Clayton Lane facing the houses continue to blow over the housing estate for another 2 years? Going to work, shopping or walking the children to school is not very pleasant, as you can smell and taste the dust. Cars, windows and doors have a permanent film of dust in them. I await your response.
In response to Marilyn's question, we are mindful in terms of the impact that regeneration has in many ways, and you know what she's raised is an issue behind us in terms of the demolition and the remediation of the old Ciba site to enable the development of a lot of new properties by Harrow Estates sometime in the next couple of years. When we started regeneration back in 1999-2000, I think what we were clear about is a couple of things. I think one, it wasn't going to be completed overnight, it was going to take 15 to 20 years. But secondly, if we were going to address the problems of East Manchester that were prevalent then, there was a huge amount of work to be done. They would cause some disruption for local people, whether that's demolition, whether it's new build. There's been a huge amount of construction, there's going to be a lot more construction. And I think the critical thing that we've tried to do is to make sure that developers are considerate of local people, that they try and minimise problems where they exist, try to think about what local people are going through, and to ensure that local people are involved and informed. With regards to behind us, we have made contact with Harrow Estates with the issue with regards to dust. We've asked them to think carefully about how they can minimise the problem. The difficulty we can't enforce it. There is nothing we can do in terms of enforcing that. What we have to do is to seek to get them to think in terms of long and hard about the impact it has on the neighbours. We have had and continue to have a very strong relationship with Harrow, and just to give you an example in terms of where they've taken into account in terms of some of the local difficulties that have been caused by the demolition of what was a huge site. It was a chemical works of 150 years, the old Clayton Lane plant. We had a television reception booster on the local people in terms of the properties around us. Their TV aerials were pointing at this reception, the booster on the old Clayton Lane site. When the demolition happened, is that we worked with Harrow and we actually got them to fund replacement TV aerials for all the local people that were being affected by the demolition. They didn't have to do that, it wasn't their responsibility, but we asked them to think about in terms of the impact it was having, and apply to their better judgment to try and ensure that they thought about that and put something in place to actually help the local people, and they did that. We've asked them about the issue about the dust that's being caused. We hope that we can work with them to minimise the problems. I think what I would say is that there is a huge site here. There is going to be a lot further development, and what we have to do is to make sure that they have a good relationship with local neighbours. They think about the impact that the development has on local neighbours, and they minimise some of the problems that might be caused, the problems that are being caused now, but particularly the problems that will be caused in the future when the major house building programme takes place here. One of the issues is that the fact that these piles of rubble have been left here, I think, is one of the problems of the site. The site's been a chemical factory for 150 years. The land is very contaminated, and what Harrow will be doing is a major remediation project. They'll be using the piles of rubble to actually fill in the contaminated soil that will be taken off-site to treat. So that the demolition works that have taken place is that what's being left will be used in the next year or two in terms of to clean up the land and to be used ready for development. So unfortunately they can't remove the piles of rubble now. If they remove them, they have to bring them back when they're ready to remediate. So we will work with them to see if we can ensure that they minimise the problems that those piles of rubble are causing.